So we move in. We're going to look a little bit at running backs here, and Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker are the consensus 1 and 2 at running back. Just going to put it in first to see if you think that there's anyone else who could go and challenge them for that status. And then when we look ahead to this season in terms of fantasy football and dynasty leagues, do you think they are the clear contenders for the 101 in dynasty, or do you think some of these wide receivers could potentially challenge that?
Short term, I'm worried about them for how we're going to play them in redraft and best ball leagues. We will get the ADP bump if you're drafting them right now. But in Dynasty, just for this year, I'm always worried about backs in today's NFL unless they fit the bill of what NFL GMs look for. Like Najee Harris is the most recent example, and that he only had 25 career carries of 20-plus yards at Alabama on 578 carries. He wasn't so much explosive as he was hard to bring down, but his size and showing up at 6'1", 232 always ensured that there was basically no chance he would ever be pigeonholed in the NFL. He was never going to be a third down back. He was never going to be an early down grinder for his catch radius as well and sucking up targets at Alabama. He was always going to be an every down player no matter where he landed. Whereas with Breece Hall, who I do believe is the 101 right now, even though we're starting to see more mock drafts and we may get CEH at the end by Kenneth Walker, but I don't have concerns about his profile. Breece Hall's translating to the NFL. He averaged 27 catches per season. He forced the 7th most missed tackles in the country last year, and he does have elite burst with a 4.39 40 at 217 pounds. The only issue is that he still is just, quote unquote, just 5'11", 217, which is more like Javonte Williams, right? Someone who stayed in a timeshare despite being the more valuable, explosive player throughout the year. And so in coaches' eyes, I still think there is a chance Kenneth Walker and Hall can get pigeonholed at their size, whereas Najee Harris never had a chance to. So if Hall ends up as a 1B, like Javonte Williams, or third down option, the Bills have reportedly brought him in, even though Breece Hall would be fun with the Bills, but he'd also be a third down back over Duke Johnson, and probably take over for Devin Singletary down the road. But the short-term return is what we're trying to look at. And so even though I would draft him 101, I still am somewhat worried about year one at least. But Dynasty, long-term, Shawn, not worried at all.
Well, you mentioned the sort of similarities there, and it's interesting because one of the interesting things with Williams is that, as you mentioned, didn't get that value in year one because of the youth, because of all the fantastic peripherals and the way people see him as a potential future 101. You can still get a ton of value. And so Hall, I think, is someone who is exciting because even if he has a year that's not that impressive from a fantasy points perspective, he's going to just continue to gain in value. He's that good. It's encouraging to hear you say that. It's maybe a little bit discouraging to hear you put him with the Bills because Devin Singletary, one of our absolute favorites. I'm probably the biggest Devin Singletary supporter in the fantasy community. I say that, I obviously don't really know, but Hall would push him aside. So I think he's going to come in and be fantastic. There are some other spots where he could go, and similar to what you said, he would have that split. And as a dynasty manager, you don't want to lose any year, right? You don't want to have a team. And one of the things is not all the players who have the 101 have it because they finished last. Some people have it because they made some very savvy trades previously. And so you're looking at that and you're thinking, how can I win now? And again, some of the teams that had the 101 because they did finish last actually have so many resources combined with injuries from the previous year that they can draft Hall, even if they finish last, win the championship. So that does come into play.
Did you enjoy that clip? Make sure you hit that subscribe button to get more content from RotoViz. And of course, you can check out full-length podcasts at rotoviz.com/podcast. Available on all podcast platforms. Check out our wide range of content. Once again, rotoviz.com/podcast.